Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Kaba Ilco number 15995KS. This is a composite cylinder. I use the term composite to mean generic in design, can be applied in different sort of applications and different types of locks. And the 159 series from Kaba and the 153, I think 9 series, is of a composite or generic type construction when it comes to cylinders. Kaba manufactures a variety of cylinders in an astounding amount of total options. Keyway and color, etc. What we're looking, and we'll get into that more in a moment, what we're looking at here is a generic type of cylinder construction that you're going to see installed in grade 1, grade 2, tubular deadbolts, auxiliary locks, slam locks, tubular dead latching slam locks, grade 1 and grade 2 cylindrical knob, grade 1, grade 2 cylindrical lever locks. And it accomplishes that by using this generic type design, but also in this series, the assembly of tail pieces that they send you as well. So the 15995 is a generic type cylinder. Dissecting the part number now tells us that this is a key and knob, key and lever, deadbolt type cylinder that very likely will work in your cylinder, but not absolutely. I've had people call me up and say, you told me this would work. I said no such thing. You might try it. It might work. I've made these fit into a lot of places they weren't meant to fit. And they've worked perfectly. I've had to drill, file, ream, otherwise compensate, grind, polish, deburr, sand, file again. It's very likely will fit because of its generic design, but the 15995 specifically means that it is a 6-pin cylinder. There are 6 chambers drilled through the cylinder plug and the cylinder housing. The 95, that 5 means that it's pinned 5. You can easily take this and pin it 6 by adding into the Bible your spring, your top or driver pin, and then your bottom pin. So this comes equipped to take a 6-pin cylinder. A 6-pin key will actually fit into it without any trouble, which is not the case on all cylinders like this. But it's pinned 5. Okay. Now, if you want the drilled 6, pinned 6, it would be a 1599. You guessed it, 6. Now, the KS in the part number, that means Kwikset. This is the standard 1176 Kwikset Keyway. This is the regular Kwikset stuff. So, why would you want such an animal? Well, very likely because you currently have 2 keys on your key ring and you want it to be 1. You might have some Schlage over here, or some Baldwin over here, or some Kwikset over here, whatever the case is. So the low-hanging fruit is, what cylinder or locks can I replace to match against the others that I can't so easily replace to give me 1 key? And that's generally where you see these cylinders purchased. Last time I did a job for a client, he had a Baldwin lock on his front door, a beautiful Versailles trim, or it may not have been that grand. It might have been an Empire trim. You're talking hundreds of dollars. And the client had this in an antique nickel finish, or maybe it was 003 finish by Baldwin. Not easy to replace that cylinder. He likes the fact that it says Baldwin on the front. He paid for that. That's what he wants. But then he's got this Seagull lock on the side door, where it was easier to replace that rim cylinder with a Keyway that took the same Baldwin key, which is a Schlage C, Keyway, pinned 5, I'm sure. Probably drilled 6, but pinned 5. Now in this scenario, same concept. you could as easily have that Baldwin on the front door, then your garage door's got, you know, well, that's a bad example. You could simply have all of these locks that are, let's say, a better example is where you would have an installed base of Kwikset locks in an apartment building, which would be very typical. You'll have, let's say, a 12 flat, and you've got Kwikset locks and deadbolts everywhere. You've bought this apartment building, you're going to put all Kwikset because you're remodeling everything, but then them front doors have a good quality Schlage vestibule lock, let's say, a storeroom lock. It's got an intercom system, electric strike, but you've got a knob lock that's been there for 20 years. It works perfectly. It just doesn't take that Kwikset key, and you want to maison key the front door. Maison is French for house. That maison key means to house key, or to what I call common key, or to intentionally cross key. Meaning, and it is not an advisable means to key a cylinder at all. I don't think any locksmith would endorse it and say this is what you want. Not one that you should be using, in my opinion. When you cross key or maison or house key something, you can pin that exterior cylinder so that all 12 apartments have one key that will get into their unit, front and back doors, but will also pass that front door as well. So you could take a cylinder like this that's all Kwikset everywhere else, pass those 12 different keys and the master through this, and you're off to the races. You don't have to buy a new lock. And what's really cool about that is that front door, how many times a day is the tenant in unit 6 going to go in and out? I don't know, 4 times a day? 2 times a day? 0 times a day? 20 times a day? No problem. How many times a day are people going to go through that front door? 200 times a day? 300 times a day? 500 times a day? The point of the matter is you would want a more robust lock on that front door, and that's where the high-quality cylinder like this would come into play. Or eliminate the maison keying and give every tenant 2 keys, but you want them to all be Kwikset. Let's say that. You know, maybe you've got a cylinder on there that you can't get keys for because you bought the building and it has a restricted keyway on it. That's just a hassle to get. And you're like, listen, all I want is a Kwikset key because that's what you use. Great. There you go. This cylinder will hopefully fit into that A80 Plymouth, which I know that it will, from Schlage, and you're off to the races. Now, long story. Sorry, let's move on. You're going to be able to run this into, not with absolute guarantee, as I said earlier, but most likely into these common construction knobs. Knobs, levers, deadbolts. Knobs first. You're going to have 3 tail pieces. You're going to get 6 tail pieces. 3 of them are going to be for knobs or levers. The short one is going to be from the shoulder, about 7/8. The next one is going to be about 1 1/16. I have already made a mistake. Start over. The short one, about 11/16. The second one, the medium length, is 7/8. Short one is RS, stamped RS. Don't think it's short. M for RM for medium, although it might. The L, the RL, is about 1 1/8. That's stamped RL. These tail pieces will go into your knob. A knob trim, in instance, I can't think of any instances where they don't take the tail pieces horizontally, is going to work sublimely, most likely. Now you'll notice that there are 2 preps on the bottom of that. That's because you can orient the tailpiece horizontally, or you can orient it vertically. Okay, horizontal or vertical. That's why those 2 are there, so you can catch the spring-loaded pin that's inside of the threaded cap retainer. Why would you need to put it horizontally? Because that's what knobs generally take. Why would you need to put it vertically? Well, the reason you would is because levers generally, that's what we're looking at, horizontal. Key goes in, right? Well, in a lever lock, don't you always see those tipped on their side? Now you're putting in the key like this. What does that do to the tailpiece? It turns it vertical. You need to be able to orient that tailpiece horizontally or vertically. I remember the first time I saw a cylindrical lever lock, very early 90s, because what happened before that? Well, levers existed, certainly before the very early 90s, but they weren't mandated to be used by federal law. ADA compliance is passed. Now all of a sudden, you don't sell knobs anymore. It's all levers. Lever lock comes in, and I keyed the lock. I put the tailpiece back on, slapped it back in, and my goodness, I can turn the key and get the latch to move, but I can't get the key to where I can pull it out without the latch being retracted in the lock. And then it dawned on me, the cylinder ain't like this, it's like this. So I had to reverse that tailpiece. And the funny thing about it was, I think what I was doing was a customer walked in with a cylinder. I got to use the cylinder in a lever lock. The inspector came and I got trouble. I got to put a lever on there now. But this thing is a level 4 key, meaning it's keyed, it's master keyed, it's grandmaster keyed, it's great grandmaster keyed. Even taking that cylinder apart is potentially dangerous because of the parts that are in there and the hundreds of other keys that worked. So I literally had to take the tailpiece and give myself my bird's mouth relief to be able to turn that sucker so that it was vertical, put it all back together, and we saved the day. Now, levers, knobs, taken care of. Now we talk about deadbolts. You're going to get 3 other cylinders. Well, these have a funny prep on the bottom of them. They got this half prep. That half prep permits a lazy action on the tailpiece. This is literally called a lazy action tailpiece. If you say lazy action to anyone in locks or locksmithing, they ought to know what that means. The short one is about 1/2 inch. The medium length unit is about 7/8. The long one, and the long one's probably pretty common, is about 1 inch and 7/8 or so. Now, what the lazy action does, imagine in your knob or lever, when you turn this, you're turning the tailpiece, you're turning the latch, right? Well, if you were to have a deadbolt and turn that 90 degrees, or a little bit more, you throw the deadbolt. What will happen when you turn that back to vertical? Well, here comes the latch bolt back. Okay, gosh, the door is unlocked. Hit it again. Bring it back to vertical, take the key out. It's still unlocked. You need to be able to have a tailpiece that when you throw, you can bring the key back to vertical to withdraw the key without the latch bolt coming back, hence the lazy action. Okay, it only wants to work in one way necessarily for you at any one time. So you're going to get this little C washer as well, and that's going to go right on top of here. And that's going to permit that lazy action to occur where you can throw, move your key back, and this doesn't move. And that's why you will have movement of the key in a deadbolt, that you're not doing anything but moving the key. Lazy action. Finally, the last thing in here is a little shim. I've called my very exceptional contact and tech support at Kaba, Ilco, who is irreplaceable. He tolerates my several, often and many technical requests. He's told me, it is a he, he's told me that customers apparently complain that the cylinder moved too much in the preparation of the back of the lever. So you can take this little shim, slide it down over your tailpiece, and put the whole gizmo in, and that will help reduce the amount of play. And there are cylinders out there that, if you have play, if you put the key in and kind of turn it a little bit, you can rock that back and forth. You don't want that at all to happen. The thickness of this little shim is .032, so it's a 32nd of an inch thick. I've never installed one of these. I've never needed one, but if you get yours installed and you've got a small amount of play, take it off, put the shim back in, put it back in. Just install it the way that it comes from the factory. Now, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Kaba Ilco products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. The full product catalog will have the term brass cylinder in the description. You'll pull that up, and if you like to, pull up the brass cylinder catalog. Any of them there will serve your purpose. Meaning there will be more than one because of the years of publication. Control F, brass, you'll find it. I like to look at all of the several and many keyways that Kaba Ilco provides. The current catalog has almost, it has 28 keyways. The KS is your Kwikset. You can see you've got 15935 KS. Well, that's the keyway portion. And as you change that to the other available keyways, Weiser, Dexter, Corbin, Russwin, Schlegel, Siegel, Sargent, Arrow, stuff that's probably been discontinued since Eisenhower was president. A composite HR1, that's a Harlock. I don't even think I've ever even seen one of those. The point of the matter is, you can make these cylinders work, these old keyways work that are from World War I era or before. Just speaking, just taking flagrant use of the facts and figures. I don't know the history of these, to me, in modern times, the history of these keyways. But, in the northwest side of Chicago, where you've got these buildings built in 1920, these brick, massive apartment buildings, you're going to run into this stuff. New York City, it's a walk through the history of hardware development as you just are a tourist in that city. Old cities are going to have these old locks, and that's why you're going to see these old cylinders working, these Harlocks, these, Lorry 90. These companies have been long gone, bought and sold, bought and sold. So the Keyway is really cool. You can do a lot of damage with this stuff in terms of availability. I like Kaba Ilco cylinders because it's made of brass. That allows the manufacturer to achieve and hold tight machining tolerances, meaning that when you pin your cylinders, they're going to work super smooth when you pin them well. They're not zinc. They're not a low-quality base material where you have to have lots of tolerance. You're going to get a good, nice fit and finish. You're going to have reliable, predictable operation out of the cylinder for years to come, and that's why I prefer them, because they're just simply less expensive, is the bottom line. After that, you've got your finish. There's lots of finishes, your chromes, your brasses, some bronze material can be done. It's certainly not all of it. All of those possibilities are stock. There's there are certainly millions of potential combinations of this material that Kaba can do. Then they can do keying in-house. That you can order, if you're doing this apartment building and you had, rather than the front door being the Schleg, you had all the apartment doors being Schleg, and you were going to buy a Schleg cylinder for the Arrow lock that's on the outside. You want them to key it and master key it, they'll do that. Provide cut keys, they'll do that. As will we here internally. Work with us directly on a locksmithing job. Now back to the manufacturer's page within the website, you will see the brass cylinder catalog we just looked into. You'll see other catalog links. The one to draw your attention to is the key blank catalog that's there. An incredibly irreplaceable resource if you're trying to identify many relatively common key blanks, keyways. Then there's also other catalogs there like Storefront Hardware. They're key machines. Kaba Ilco obviously is a company who produces key machines as well. I'm partial to them, and it's because of the reasons mentioned earlier. Technical support tolerates me, and their quality is exceptional. Any questions on the Kaba Ilco 15995 KS in a 2060 finish, that satin chrome on the cylinder plug face, or any other Kaba Ilco product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.